Welcome to the edge of the Caspian Sea and to the Baku city circuit for a qualifying session which really tests every aspect of a driver's ability. We've got 20 corners here, some high speed, some heavy braking, and virtually no margin of error throughout. It's a circuit described as bonkers, ridiculous, and very enjoyable if you ask the drivers. We're set for qualifying for round 4 of the 2017 FIA Formula 2 Championship. I'm your commentator, Alex Jakes. Already we have a queue at the end of the pit lane. Looking very good early on. The man sitting in 4th place in the championship, right there in front of you, Luca Giotto. He scored a personal best at the time 1 year ago, racing in GP2. Now in Formula 2, he very much looks like he has the pace to contend at least for pole. And it's a pole position that has been, well, really owned by one man so far. Charles Leclerc is the only man on pole in the F2 modern era. Norman Nato has good qualifying form, but desperately needs to take that into the races, and you see the points there. Nato not figuring anywhere near the top as many people thought he would. Just 3 points between Leclerc and Roland. It's an enthralling session ahead, and that's before you count in the championship picture. Two fantastic drivers, and as you saw, just 3 points between them, with 4 available right now for the fastest driver in 30 minutes time. Be a really interesting start to the season. We've seen Prema's continued form at the top of the timing pages. A little bit of an issue there though for the Prema, being pushed to one side. Now Charles Leclerc, who has gone level with the one driver change for this weekend in the ART. That is Sergei Sorokin in for Alexander Albon, who has broken his collarbone whilst cycling, and they will restart Leclerc, who appears to have stalled in the pit lane. So Sorokin back into Sorokin, and another staller there, Matsushita, who had electrical issues, and so Leclerc being pushed out of the way, and now Matsushita as well, as everyone else heads out onto the circuit. We had a few mechanical gremlins hitting Jordan King, hitting Matsushita and Sorokin, who returns to the team that he contested the 2016 GP2 series with as well. Just as we saw this morning, another issue for Nick de Vries. So de Vries, who was fastest of all the runners in practice earlier this morning, stalled when he was trying to leave the pit lane in practice. He stalled when trying to leave the pit lane in qualifying. A little bit of adjustment of the crash helmet there. When he does get out on the racetrack, he's expected to be very, very quick. Remember, he was on the front row for his first ever Formula 2 race in Bahrain, followed that up with a 3rd place before having a difficult time of it in Monaco with just 14th. But de Vries, a driver, a McLaren Junior no less, with real form. You see the red walled super soft Pirelli tyre, the 2 compounds brought this weekend to the Baku city circuit, the medium white walled tyre and the super soft. The extra stepping compounds that we have, as we see de Vries has finally got going. The extra stepping compounds is because of that fast speeds that you see in the final part of the lap, notably when they come out of the Old Town section that you're looking at right now. Once they get through the single track 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. We've seen Sergio Perez off in the Formula 1 first free practice session, and it really does show you that if that happens in the race, they're going to almost certainly have to red flag it if someone clobbers it in race conditions. That's about the only thing we didn't see in the race here last year, when these guys in this machinery really provided 2 of the most extraordinary races you'll ever see. A 10 wide restart. Safety car was used 7 times. We saw the virtual safety car a lot earlier in practice as the field begin the warm-up process of warming tyres and brakes. No tyre blankets, and they've got to get the brake temperature just right. Nobuharu Matsushita saying earlier in the weekend to me that the first 3 corners with the bumpy braking zone, that is where you set up your lap. It's single track through the second part of the racetrack. There is time to be gained through sector 2, but you see the risk. You saw the risk from Nabil Jeffrey earlier on in F2 practice, and from Sergio Perez in Formula 1 practice. If you overcook it into turn 8, it could be game over. So Sorokin was saying that he's only human. That was his first quote when I said, how easy was it to get back in the car? Only human. It's going to take a little bit of time, but he's not setting a target for this weekend. Really enjoyed Le Mans, and he's definitely seeing this as a chance, as many in the paddock have been talking about, a chance to underline his credentials for a Renault Formula One seat in 2018. Alexander Albon, if you're watching, Alex, get well soon. Let's see you back in Austria. Not sure Sergei is quite as keen. Sergei, who was on pole for the Austrian round, the feature race in GP2 last year, will be desperately hoping he gets a bit more of an opportunity. Sorokin did consider taking the second seat at Campos. Campos are, unfortunately for them, the only team to not score a point in this year's championship so far. But given the races that we saw last year, that could easily change by the time we get to the end of Sunday's sprint race. Right now, all about qualifying, and a man who needs a good result. His personal best of 5th in the championship in Formula 2. He is a rapid driver, but hasn't had the easiest of starts to the season. Only the 1 point scoring finish for Prema's Antonio Fuoco, the Ferrari junior driver, in what has to be considered the class of the field. As we see, last year's GP2 champion he's joined his old team. Seems pretty relaxed. He would, I'm sure he'd rather be out there. I was asking Sorokin whether he'd missed the racing, and he said, well, it's all about the end goal of getting to Formula One. So if that means sitting on the sidelines and I get there, I don't mind too much. But I think he was being a little bit diplomatic as Fuoco, with a little bit of oversteer, but not too much. We did see in the session last year that a lot of drivers failed to take the step from the medium tyre to the super soft tyre. This is a track that rubbers in massively, huge evolution. 3.5 seconds between the fastest time last year in practice and the fastest time in qualifying, set by Antonio Giovinazzi, the teammate to the man that we were just looking at on the pit wall. And so Fuoco will desperately try to be impressing that man as he sets the first representative lap time. They've altered the walls at some parts of the circuit, notably here, there at turn 11, as well as 5 and 6. So there's a little bit more room, but we're talking inches all the way around the racetrack. How much curb dare you take? Neat and tidy for the Italian driver. Out-qualified, as everyone has been, by his teammate in all 3 races, but was very much in the mix, on the same pace as Leclerc earlier on in the session. Such a wonderful sweeping section, and a little bit of a kick as he gets very close to the wall indeed on this, his first flying run. Remember, the warm-up laps are taking about 2 minutes. You can see that right there. The representative time for the warm-up lap, about 2 minutes 10 seconds. So you've really got to get these runs right on the super soft tyre, which last year did not last very long at all. Coming up through the gears to the 47th gear change he makes with the use of DRS. It's a 1.5 kilometer straight, 2.2 kilometers at full throttle, and a 1:53.4 for Antonio Fuoco, who, just like Ollie Rowland did earlier on in practice, gets to the end of that straight and finds himself going slightly wide. Here's a man to watch, Artem Markelov, 3rd in the championship going into this. On 60 points, the championship leader has 77. And you see how very quick it is. These all counting. That's the 20th and final corner. He's going to peel to the right-hand side because you can't cross that line there. That's the pit lane entrance. And now up to the finish line, and Artem Markelov goes faster, as has Johnny Cecotto. So Fuoco down to 3rd, and he just about manages to pull on the anchors and get it slowed down. So much speed. They're up to 205 miles an hour in certain trim. De Vries really attacking, but he's caught traffic, and whoa, I thought we were going to have a bit of an issue there with Gustav Mahler and Nick De Vries. I wonder how much the fastest man in practice from this morning had to lift. We'll find out, certainly from him. DRS wide open, 2 DRS zones around this racetrack, and Dutchman Nick De Vries over the line to go 6th fastest, but you can see a long way away. Leclerc has gone over the line, and he has gone fastest of all, which we've come to expect, but the fact he is doing it this consistently, we are heading into Stoffel Van Dorn territory. But Matsushita improves on the front row last year in GP2, and now the fastest time of anyone by half a tenth after the initial flurry of runs. Matsushita, Leclerc, Markelov, Chikoto, Fuoco in the top 5, and it is looking very competitive indeed throughout the order. One consistency though, Matsushita fast last year and fast this year as well. So this is Sorokin we're on board with, the returnee to the team. It's his first ever weekend in Formula 2 on the super soft rubber like they all are, and that is just going to get overcooked and straight on. He did well not to find the advertising hoarding there. Robert Visoiu with a big lock-up. New crash helmet designed for the Romanian driver, and Gustav Malia on the podium last time and tapping the wall through turn number 7. So is that why he was going slowly? Yeah, you can see it had knocked the wheel out of alignment, so that might have been why he was so slow through the final corners. Whoa, huge smash there. That is a massive crash for the Russian time and Artem Markelov, who is... And it's Luca Giotto, I'm hearing. It's not Markelov, it's Luca Giotto, who had looked so impressive. But that is the rapid turn 15, where they've been going. They're finally, after the single track sector 2, they get to open the car up. And the first time they really brake is for turn 15. And understandably, we've got a red flag. And this is Luca Giotto's chances gone.
I crashed next to Okay, Luca, okay. You just have to wait here until the safety get out, mate.
So Luca Giotto into the wall at turn 15, not able to take his rapid practice pace into this session. He was very competitive earlier on, but third place for him this morning. But he will start at, well, towards the back. So coming into turn 15, it's not even the speed, it's just a lock-up that will frustrate him so much. Ollie Rowland talking earlier on this weekend about the need to have a slightly oversteery car. Any sort of understeer at all results in this. And look how tame that looks. No sort of speed at all, and then into your vision. A driver who doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but this is a circuit that invites it. And you can see team principal there shaking her head, because Russian time will know that Luca was perhaps just a little bit faster than Artem Markelov, who I apologize to. It's not him in the wall, it's Luca, and the body language tells you absolutely everything. So the session has been red flagged. They have paused the clock, and the myriad of marshals that surround this circuit go to work. You saw so many of them on the circuit in Formula 1 practice, and we're seeing the same thing again as Luca heads behind the barrier and attempts to make his way back to the circuit. The pit lane, he is understandably a little bit out of it at the moment, because he's heading the wrong way from the pit lane there. And there is no, as you can see from the right-hand side, because it is such a tight circuit, 13 meters at its widest point, only 8 meters at its narrowest at turn 8, of course, the already famous turn 8. And it's a big old test for teams and drivers to get a balance that works, but it will be such a frustrating accident for Giotto. The one upside for him, and he won't be seeing any of them at the moment, as Bruno Michel, the boss, in full conversation once again. The only upside for Luca is that you can win this race from the back, because we saw that exact thing from an Italian driver this time last year. And so after, frankly, incredible Monaco weekend where we didn't have a red flag at any point, we now have everyone back in the pit lane. Of course, we've reverted to the normal qualifying session in Monaco. There's an A and B group to avoid congestion around the 2-mile circuit. It's 3.7 miles around here, so they don't feel the need to do that despite the tight confounds. And what a great job the marshals have done. We can't go racing without them, and once again they have responded very, very quickly to a corner that has caught out many a driver in just the year and a few practice sessions that we have had around the Baku streets. So just slightly deep into the corner. There's the lock-up from the front left. And then the front right taking an awful lot of pain into the Tech Pro barrier. And Luca Giotto, who had not set a representative lap time. It was his first flying lap of the session. And so he will find everyone who is able to get out there on the racetrack going ahead of him. So he's going to have to pull a Giovinazzi if he's to get big points tomorrow. We know he is capable of a storming drive. Remember Hockenheim last year, where he came charging through from 14th. But on a circuit where you can overtake, is his teammate.
He was walking the tires and going through the corner. That's why he has a big crash, yeah? Yeah, correct. He locked a little bit, maybe brake a bit too late. Locked up a bit the front left and just went straight, really.
So Markelov just having clarification there of what had happened to his teammate. Wanted to check that it was his hunch. It was indeed. And the session will get going in just about 90 seconds time here in the Azerbaijani capital. It's a very, very busy pit lane, as you can tell, in front of Government House. And what is usually a gigantic square every other week of the year. This is the only time Baku puts the barriers up and goes racing in this configuration. And you see the magnificent building there and the giant flag, which has picked up a little bit. Wind speed has increased. Wasn't a lot at the start of this session. Track temperature is 40 degrees. It's lost about 10 degrees since the Formula One cars were out on circuit. Air temperature, a rather lovely 27. It was even cooler yesterday, and the mechanics were grateful for that. They do not have their usual European setup, neither do they have a spare pit lane like they do in Bahrain or like they do in Silverstone. They're under plastic awnings here. And so the cooler the temperatures out there, the more grateful they are because of the long hours and longer hours down at Russian time after that crash for Luca Giotto, which has taken him out of contention. Still a chance for the other 19 drivers in the field. King, Visoyu, Sorokin and Malia, who you saw clip the wall. That's a big let-off for him. He will now be able, hopefully, to get the car repaired. Be interesting to see if Racing Engineering have managed to get things righted on the car. You can just see in the background there the red and yellow cars, the Spanish-owned, French populated team, and we are going once again. It's a little bit of a juddery start for Nick de Vries, but this time he does get going. Nabil Jeffrey, who managed to clip turn 8 earlier on in the session, and that curtailed his practice running. Jeffrey only getting the 4 laps in this morning. And so on we go again. We are back under green conditions despite that marshal hanging out the red flag. The red flag has passed, and we have lost 1 driver from the qualifying session. They will be slightly circumspect into turn 15. So we are once again back out there, despite the red flags, under green flag conditions. At least that is what it's telling me on the monitor. There's the green one. We're going once again. And so the new tarmac last year, it's slightly bumpier in other parts of the circuit. So Nick de Vries on the super soft rubber that he really does like. Over 1 lap, de Vries, very impressive indeed, and in a reflective mood. And we have the red flag again. So we saw the red flags out around the circuit. As we see Luca rather wishing that he had not made the error. So we saw the red flag on the circuit. We got the green light at the end of the pit lane. And isn't this just classic Baku? This is why we're enjoying it. We enjoyed it last year. It's always a little bit of crazy. And we're looking down there A little bit of oil, a little bit of debris, whatever it is. Race control don't like it one bit, and so the drivers have barely made it out of the pit lane before they will be sent back in. But the marshals, of course, who take their direction from race control, were hanging the red flags out. I wondered if they were slightly slow in bringing them in, but we did see the red flags throughout the first sector, and now we've got the message up here. So back to the pit lane for everyone. So I'm hearing that the crash car was not removed properly away from the racetrack to race control's liking. So everyone sent back to the pit lane. And there is the crash car.
I think it's for debris.
So Nick Latifi thinks it might be for debris on the circuit. Race control perhaps not happy with the location. You have to do very well to hit the Russian time from where it is behind the barriers there. Either way, sadly, we are not racing here as we have a look at the 380-meter pit lane, which is normally a bus lane. A little bit of trivia that you didn't need to know. Normally a bus lane for the other 51 weeks of the year, as everyone gets to see their mechanics one more time. Difficult for them to focus in this stage. I know that they'd all be blasé about it if I went and asked them and said, hey, how difficult was that session to keep you focused? But it is difficult to keep you focused in this circumstance when you know that the track is so low grip. We talk about the evolution of the track and it rubbering in. Well, it's bumpy, it's low grip, there's no margin for error. We've seen that with Luca Giotto, and not only that, but we've seen it with Gustav Malia, Nabil Jeffrey, and we've only run, in terms of accumulative minutes, for 55 minutes of this weekend so far. So not much really to check because they had sent the cars on their way. Fans will be placed where they need to be. Cooling on the car, of course, is generated by traveling in a straight line. Air passing through the radiators, so they will, I think, as they remove the fans, be expecting to send everyone to the pit lane one more time. And indeed, we're going to be going in just under 2 minutes to try and find out who's going to take the 4 points for pole. Nobuharu Matsushita at the moment looks like he's going to claim he's first, but of course we've got a long way to go in this session, and so not long to go at all. Great shot that. You see the towers in the background that dominate the skyline. Most of the drivers are in the hotel in the center ground, and usually the main attraction in this part of the world is the government building on the right-hand side, but we are focusing for the moment on what's going on in the pit lane. And Norman Nato, who has kept his counsel, he's been very quiet, but you can guarantee a driver that many tip to challenge for the title. It's one of the reasons that he headed to the Arden team with the new staff, with the engineering prowess that they had hired. Well, it's just not worked, has it? In the last couple of rounds, no score in Monaco, no score in Barcelona. He was punted out of the sprint race in Bahrain, and his only point scoring finish this year was a second place. So he was a season best of third as well in qualifying. So here we go again to the end of the pit lane one more time to try and find out who the fastest is. Leclerc seemed to have good speed. Remember, we did see De Vries blocked through the final sequence of corners, so expect the man currently occupying 10th position, 1.7 seconds off the pace, to massively improve from there. In terms of what we've seen in the first few sectors, Leclerc is the fastest man in the first sector of the lap, and then we've got Matsushita, who is dominating through the single track second part of the lap. Johnny Cecotto, the fastest through turn 16 and up through the gears to the line. Green light at the end of the pit lane. Thankfully, green flags waving on the circuit. So still not entirely sure whether it was the position of Luca Giotto's discarded Russian time or a little bit of debris on the circuit. But the good news is they're back out there and they're warming tyres and brakes, as we see so often, weaving from side to side to generate heat. And you need the brakes we've seen a lot of guys almost, I don't know whether it's, they're thinking about something else in terms of having completed the lap, but we've seen a lot of drivers so far in the just under an hour of running that we've had this weekend going long after completing their flying lap and heading into turn one and out braking themselves. So something to look out for. It's what Ollie Rowland did after setting his only representative lap time of the weekend earlier on in practice. Here is the man that is second in the Drivers' Championship going into this weekend. Remember, pole for Ollie Rowland would elevate him. He's got a best so far this season of third. That was last time out at Monaco. Remember, he has been on a GP2 front row. That was in Belgium when he was driving for MP Motorsport. So nice conditions here for the drivers, but everyone will be really keen to get it going. Of course, every time the drivers, we saw that a lot of the races last year, didn't we? Every time the rhythm was interrupted, safety cars seemed to breed safety cars. We're on board with Sorokin, who has not set a representative lap time, as you can see there, the left-hand side of your picture with the graphic. So that leaves him down in 16th. And the time on your screen can be disregarded there. That is the time it took to warm up the tyres, but he was behind, apparently, Giotto in the queue. Thankfully, no issues like he had before. You just hear the little confidence lifts before they get the tyres up to temperature, and Antonio Fuoco really kicking it to the edge of the wall there, getting very wide indeed. He knows he's under a little bit of pressure, but he does have core speed. And with DRS open, he breaks into turn number 3. You can see how bumpy it is. No, he's not leaving anything out there at the moment. Matsushita talks of the first 3 corners, while Fuoco has given everything he's got, seemingly, from the angles we're watching at least. And he's just down on the fastest first sector of them all. So great opening part of the lap, and now it changes. Now it's about not scrubbing off any time. How early can you get on the power through key slow corners? How much are you going to risk at this stage of the racetrack? Personal best being set all the way down the field from Fuoco, from Latifi, from Rowland. We're focusing on the Ferrari Junior driver. A little bit of a correction there as he exited the corner, fighting the car a little bit. And this is where it opens up, and it is oh so exciting to watch the cars. Into 15 for Antonio Fuoco. We've got yellow flags on the circuit, but remember, he's past that point. So Fuoco, by running at the front of the queue, decided to give himself a clear track. A little bit of a twitch on 16, and now it should all be flat for the Italian driver. Here he comes, building up to 200 miles an hour, taking a bit of an avoiding action from the Tech Pro. Wonder if that cost him any time lifting off there. We're going to get DRS any time. Here he is.
I'm boxing this lap. I damaged the front wing. I'm boxing this lap.
So Latifi could be the reason for the yellow flag. Oliver Rowland is behind, and another red flag has been flown. So there is the debris at turn number 8. So the yellow flag gets upgraded to the red. So is that what we were hearing from Nicholas Latifi? It is a navy front end plate, so it would fit with a Dams livery. And yep, there you go. Nicholas Latifi telling us on the radio, we see where the end plates ended up. And once again, classic Baku, we've got another red flag. So that was why it was so important for Antonio Fuoco to run at the front of the queue. So Fuoco able to improve to 6th. Ollie Rowland was able to improve to 5th there. And you're getting to the point of this session where you want to get your laps in as desperately as possible. Did anyone else improve there? Was anyone else able to avoid that? I don't think so. We've still got half the session to go. Fuoco going back through the area that has caused this red flag. And if we were under a red flag for debris before, we definitely are now. So Latifi, yeah, unsettling the car on the curb. And thankfully not tearing 2 wheels off it like Sergio Perez did earlier. And this was just thrilling to watch. A driver with real ability, giving it everything and making use of the wall being pushed back a couple of centimeters there. Antonio Fuoco, look at this. Fantastic stuff. And at the moment, it's got himself into the top 10 for the second time this season. It's Charles Leclerc running wide at turn 1. We've seen that a couple of times. We've seen him with a bit of oversteer there. And so red flag means the marshals at this point called into action. They've had a busy afternoon, haven't they? As the debris there pushed to the side of the curb. The debris already been recovered. So Latifi will be able to put a new front wing on the car. Looking out the window, can't quite see Latifi, but there is the front wing. And knowing the Dam squad, the resurgent Dam squad, they've already done it. Of course they have. Dams who had a really difficult year last year, won a couple of races with Alex Lynn, but they really were very impressive in the start of this year. Underline that with the win with Ollie Rowland. Remember, Latifi led 20-odd laps of the sprint race in Barcelona as well. They are not just there for the sprint races, they are permanent contenders, and that's reflected with their position in second in the drivers' standings. I joked earlier that this session was going to take about an hour. I didn't think it actually would. So, this was Visoyu going through Nicholas Latifi, unsettling the car, and that just spits him that bit wider and into the Tech Pro, which can't be pushed back any further. And so our old friend, the red flag, out for the third time in this session. So we're going to get going again in 20 seconds time. That is why we have a queue at the end of the pit lane.
I don't have a very good power from the brake. I don't feel like I've got good bite. They feel pretty glazed. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. Yeah, we'll have a look to that. They were okay on the previous run. The brakes were working all four at the right temperature.
So once again, out for a 2-minute plus warm-up lap. Go the field. Green light at the end of the pit lane. And I told you in the intro, this track was bonkers. We're seeing once again, after being oh so well behaved in Monaco with no red flags, they are making up for it here. The best young drivers in the world have to focus. And of course it is at this point worth saying that Charles Leclerc, a really difficult weekend for him. His father passing away in the week, Hervé Leclerc, passing away at just 54 years of age, and we send all of our condolences to the Leclerc family. It was never really in doubt that Charles was going to race. That's the sort of guy he is, but a difficult one for him to negotiate this weekend. He's got a message on his crash helmet for his dad, and at the back he's got a message for his old friend Jules Bianchi. So it's a poignant one for Charles Leclerc, and it's one where he really is going to have to battle not only the car around this difficult circuit, but he relishes a challenge, he relishes a street circuit, and if he can get the braking sorted into turn 1, surely he can improve the little bit more he needs to wrestle away pole position. Matsushita will be delighted that he was able to get such a strong banker lap in. We've sometimes seen Nobuhara lose his head at this stage of a weekend, show good pace in practice and then not be able to deliver in qualifying. He's sometimes a frustrating driver. Such is the talent that the Honda Junior has. But there seems to be a bit of a steady focus in his eyes in recent weeks. Maybe it's that path to Formula One with Sauber that he can see opening up, with Sauber taking a supply of Honda engines. Whatever it is, maybe it's the experience. Artem Markelov has spoken about the fact that he's in his 4th year driving this car. First year of Formula 2, of course, but he certainly seems more focused. He seems to be staying away from any precarious situations. And now they roar past the commentary box once again. The two Rapaks, the cars that finished 1st and 2nd in the prestigious Monaco sprint race. To delight Nick de Vries, who was so pleased, said he clobbered the barrier on his way. How disappointing that would have been. It would have set up an electric finish between Cecotto and and Malia. Just wondering if De Vries is just slowing down for track position or he had an issue, because getting a little bit twitchy here, but they're running in formation on board with Sorokin. So still hasn't been able to improve on his 2-minute effort from earlier on. He's definitely faster than that, I can assure you. Last year, very, very quick on the podium in both races and qualified on the second row in 3rd position 1 year ago, racing for the same team. He was one of 4 men on pole last year in GP2, and you can see the Renault gloves that he is using, the Renault test driver, trying to put himself in their thoughts for their driver plans. As we see the teammates Jordan King and Camera, and that won't be a particularly pleasant debrief now after King was forced over the notorious turn 2 curbs. So here's Matsushita, currently the man on provisional pole. We've got 11 minutes left. Matsushita just a little bit further behind. Good gaps for both of them, though. Good gaps to attack. Currently the man in 3rd position. Remember, the track gaining time all the time, but the clear disadvantage of being last in the order has been shown. If you go out first, like Fuoco, like Matsushita has done here, you do have a chance of getting your lap in before maybe one of the other drivers stick it in the wall elsewhere. But we're getting into more of a pattern now. So De Vries has decided to go out there and attack. Ollie Rowland is only just leaving the pit lane. Of course, if you catch a car in the middle part of the lap, that is it. There is nothing they can do. There is nothing you can do. That is going to be the lap ruin. So the team's going to have to be working really hard indeed to find their driver's space. Great to go on board now through the 90-degree corners. A lot of oversteer there. We've already got a yellow flag in. Thankfully, it's disappeared. And we can focus on Nick De Vries in 5th gear. We have to come off board as he gets rid of the DRS by releasing the paddle on the left-hand side. And the 90-degree corners about to continue right now, looking really neat and tidy for the McLaren Junior. A race winner in Formula 2 after only 6 attempts. Took him 14 races to secure his first win. He has a great core speed. That has never been in doubt. He's been a name that those in the know in motorsport circles have highlighted for many, many years. And he's come up through karting now to one of the highest echelons. Negotiates turn 8, and this is what I mean about catching a car at this part of the racetrack. It's very difficult now for Fuoco to get out of the way, but thankfully he has managed to, and De Vries now can open it up with a little bit of space. 13 meters wide now the track as he comes down to the treacherous turn 15 with no margin for error. You see him inputting the steering lock. The Dams is going to get out of the way. That's Ollie Rowland. So De Vries has had to negotiate a little bit of traffic. That is the penalty for going out there first. And you see he's 4 tenths away. Both of these sectors, though, have been personal bests. And now it's about as much power as you dare. Keep it to the floor. Up through the gears, over the crest, and then the finish line is in sight with the aid of DRS. Nick De Vries is going to improve, but to which position? Up to 3rd, only 2 tenths away, so both Rapak's cars have excellent straight line speed. He gained an awful lot through the final part of the lap. We're on board with Sergei Sorokin then, returning and just about hanging on to it, fully committed. To the left-hand side, now peel to the right, away from the line.
You're going to have to try and help me out with traffic here. At the moment, I cannot. We have no GPS information.
So Sorokin going up to 12th position. And immediately disposed by Jordan King. Fastest man in the first sector is this man, Nicholas Latifi. So he has ripped a bit of front wing off earlier in the session. He's gone out and attacked the racetrack, just like racing drivers always seem to. No hesitation to go out there and put it just as close to the wall as he did before. And Latifi could be on the brink of springing a little bit of a shock, you have to say. He's been 13th, 9th and 9th so far this season. So the cusp of the top 10 and a big kick halfway through the corner with the rear stepping out with a foot to the floor. Nicholas Latifi with 7 minutes to go, remember, is over the crest using the super soft tyres. We've got Leclerc behind him as well. Latifi cuts the line and goes second by 2,000ths of a second. And Charles Leclerc takes provisional pole by 7 tenths. An enormous improvement to his previous effort. The middle sector, the final sector, fastest of all. And Pierre Gasly, a driver who took plenty of poles and had a great turn of 1 lap pace himself, seeing a ferocious marker laid down by Leclerc. That is some performance. Definitely the best we've seen from him all weekend. Definitely the best we've seen from anyone all weekend. And that is Johnny Cecotto off the road at turn number 1, which is so easy to do and would have been so easy for Sean Galeo, the Indonesian driver for Arden, having to take avoiding action. Nothing Cecotto could do when recovering to the racetrack, and nothing Galeo could have done. This is Ralph Boschung getting very close to the wall, brushing the wall at the exit of turn number 2. Latifi there on his lap that has put him in 3rd position, brushing the wall as well. So Leclerc coming back to the pit lane, and he has gone out having struggled all weekend with the broken up sessions.
Nick, in the next push, you should expect more rear degradation in braking. Okay. The rear tires are going off quite a lot. And it was something strange with the brakes. Something is wrong because I lose the rear every time.
There's quite a lot of complaints there about the tyres, and we did see last year the super softs did not last very long at all. So even the laps that they go out there and run a 2-minute lap are taking it out of them. Johnny Cecotto one more time using the escape road down there at turn number 2. And he will have to light it up one more time. And we've got smoke in the background there. Is it a lockup? Was it a spin? I'm hearing he spun and he gets out of the way of his teammate, who will have been delighted, but that was yellow flags, and that was yellow flags ahead of his teammate. That is the disadvantage of running your cars line astern in qualifying. Charles Leclerc's lap time is barely believable. It's a 52.1. Whole last year it was a 51.7, so not quite at that stage, but it is worth reminding yourself that the track was slightly more rubbered in when they did qualifying last year. This year they've had 1 Formula 1 free practice session before qualifying. Last year they had 2, but Leclerc isn't finished yet. Does have cars in front though, has Matsushita very close indeed. Matsushita, who I think has had a pretty scruffy couple of corners because he's been caught by Leclerc, and this is the part of the racetrack. Matsushita not leaving anything there, just launching it across the curbs. Leclerc trying to follow him. Leclerc trying to take a 4th consecutive pole position at the start of his Formula 2 career. There's a reason everyone thinks he's a special driver, but few are able to perform as consistently in a talented field such as this. And Leclerc, who was going even faster and might have been slowed down by Matsushita, he has a touch, but not too much. Leclerc improving still. We've got some green sectors out there on the racetrack, the first of which are being set by this man. A personal best in the middle part of the lap for ART's Nobuhara Matsushita. Wasn't happy with his first sector. That's when he says he set up the lap. So that might be where he points to later. But right now he's able to improve up to 2nd place. Leclerc goes 9,000ths quicker. And there was no tangible improvement in the background there. So Matsushita staying in 2nd, Latifi staying in 3rd, and Charles Leclerc able to improve still as Johnny Cecotto, who is really testing out the limits of this racetrack passes through our picture. That is Malia going past Canamassas and locking up horribly and somehow keeping it out of the wall as he heads to turn number 4 and beyond. So ART have Sorokin in 16th position and Matsushita in 2nd, and Sorokin, his warning about it not being that easy to jump back into the car, definitely showing that is the case at the moment. Got a yellow flag, and it's a Coke can on the racetrack there that I think Nato did run over.
Oh, Jeremy, man, how did you do this, man? We went in sync. We went, fucking hell, man. Jeremy, you told me it was going to finish my lap earlier, Jeremy. I could have cooled down my tires and then push again. Oh, man, this is horrible.
Well, I think you got the picture there from camera. Not happy at all, not happy that they went in sync, and this is the can and a bottle on the racing line. The problem of racing on a street circuit, consider that crushed by the Arden pair. And back then, with the session still live, with the session still going. Minute and 17 seconds to go, focusing on Sorokin, who really has nothing to lose, given that he's down there in 17th position. By just staying out and running laps, but he's got King, who will need to get off the racing line and doesn't get off the racing line. So King trundling back to the pit lane. He'll be so frustrated with 15th in the order at the moment. No one could get near Leclerc. But how far can Sorokin get into the top 10? Can he give himself a platform for tomorrow's race? Is the question. At the moment on that first sector that we've seen, the answer is going to be no. Moving through the second sector now to the precarious turn 15 one more time. And he knows the fast way around there, but Sorokin is a driver that needs to feel very, very comfortable with the team and the car. Took him a while to get going when he first raced the GP211. That is the specification of Dallara that Formula 2 are using this year. Took him a while to get going. Once he does get comfortable, though, he is very difficult to match indeed. Coming to the line, the Rookie of the Year in 2015, the third place finisher in 2016. Sorokin is about to cut the beam. Is he able to improve? He is not. 2.8 seconds away. Negotiating the traffic didn't help. And we have the checkered flag out one more time after another eventful Baku session around the city circuit. And it's Charles Leclerc on an emotional weekend. And he points to the message for his dad. He really wanted that. He said it on social media yesterday. I want a 4th consecutive pole for him. And after the disappointment of Monaco and the tragedy of this week, it's something to celebrate for Charles Leclerc, and the Monegasque driver clearly made up with that. He's hugging everyone in the pit lane. And Nobuharu Matsushita is able to repeat his feat from 1 year ago. He will start tomorrow from 2nd place. You're absolutely right. And these two get along very well indeed. Gasly having to sit on the sidelines as far as Formula 1 is concerned. He's over contesting Super Formula. But Prema, who started their run of victories here a year ago, are on pole once again. 4 in a row for Charles Leclerc. And he's understandably delighted. So a word for Nicholas Latifi in 3rd place. We saw him brushing the wall on his way to 3rd position, but that is considerably his best so far. There he is in the pit lane. He will be delighted to out-qualify his teammate. Ollie Rowland down there in 9th position, and a great buffer in terms of the championship for Leclerc. The lead is now up to 7 points, but he's got Matsushita, Latifi, De Vries, Markelov, Fuoco, Cecotto and Canamassas in between. So back into the car to drive back to the Formula 2 paddock, which is situated just around the corner of the government house that separates the paddocks from each other here, Formula 1 from Formula 2. So strap back in per the regulations. And there is the message on the crash helmet as well. Charles has delivered, and really it looked like we might be seeing him struggle for the first time. He didn't struggle for pace in Monaco, didn't look all that comfortable in practice, but once again, when it's come to it, he has managed to deliver, and deliver in style. Let's confirm the provisional order then after a very eventful qualifying session here in Baku. Leclerc makes it 4 in a row, Matsushita on the front row, just like he was this time last year. Personal best for the season, personal best in Formula 2 for Nicholas Latifi, then De Vries once again in the top 4 for the 3rd time this season. Markelov always there or thereabouts, and it's back onto form for Antonio Fuoco in 6th position. Chicotto was 7th, Canamassas snuck up to 8th there, and then Roland and Visoyu round out the top 10. Camera wasn't happy, as we heard on the radio, but he was good enough for 11th ahead of his teammate. Nato outside the top 10 for the first time this season in 12th. Then we had Galeo, Malia, who clipped the wall, King, Boschong, Sorokin, who couldn't get to grips in a, well, frankly, difficult session if you're returning to the car. Delatraz has had no speed at all in 18th position. Jeffrey was 20th, and Luca Giotto smacked the wall and found himself down in 20th. Well, we wondered whether we would get the same sort of drama and chaos as a year ago. I think, given what we've seen in practice and qualifying, you're going to want to join us tomorrow for the feature race. It is going to be an absolute thriller. Join us for it when Leclerc goes from pole, when Formula 2 returns.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1 Live on all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.